stuff where I don't know what I'm talking about now. So it's 3 or 6 o'clock. I guess most of you guys are ahead of kind of California time.
Yeah, 6 p.m. my time.
Okay. So is it just us, or is anybody? Oh, there we go. As far as who's on audio that might not be on the webcam.
Let me see.
Chris isn't yet.
We got Joel. Joel, are you there? He just logged in. Chris.
So we're supposed to have, so this is the list. Elise, you're on. Jen, you're on. Myself, Chris, Dominic, William, Joel, who just logged in. JR is supposed to be on. I haven't heard anything from JR yet. Let me see.
Was another one, wasn't it?
Matt Raymond's supposed to be getting on, but he's trying to finish up his golf tournament to get in. Lauren's running late. And Seth is doing up some deals, but he said he'd try to log in if he can once things slow down at the dealership, because he's West Coast.
All right. Let's go to here.
Gathered by Sunday so far today.
Good.
Not too shabby.
Good. I just came back. I was at like a little place by the beach here. My husband's really into football. I'm just into it. He's into it. I'm not like super fanatic about it, but 49ers were playing over there. I just went for the food, and then Lily stayed with them, and then Jalen's here with me, but she's sleeping, so a little quiet over here in the Adami household because my husband's not here and my 3-year-old, so. Which reminds me, hopefully I don't think Jaden's gonna wake up, but if she does, I might have to go take care of that. But I think we'll be all right.
You got a newborn; it's understandable.
Right.
Yeah. No, she's been sleeping 8 hours already, like for almost. It'll be like 6 days in a row now.
That you're lucky. That's awesome.
You can't complain about that.
Hey, got it.
Man.
Hey, it's finally working, right?
No.
Perfect. So I guess we can kind of get started about this. I mean, the whole purpose of this, the reason why I suggested it, was because, I mean, with the talent that we have on here right now, I don't get a chance to make it to the conferences like I would like to. So I thought it would be a great idea if we could all kind of get together in a video call to talk about what we know with BDC, internet, just dealerships in general, you know, and I asked everybody to kind of pick a topic. I don't think there necessarily needs to be a specific order for the topics for anybody to start, but I kind of took myself off that list because I wanted to make sure I had as many people as possible on the call, but we had a couple people drop off. I'd like to, let whoever wants to start talking about their topics kind of go, and I think I asked Chris and Elise, their suggestions, and they said, 5 to 10 minutes per person. Not everybody's on the call that was intending to be on the call. So I would say we'd have a little bit longer time, depending on, obviously, if Elise has to go for the baby or not, or if anybody has to bounce out. But, kind of do a roundtable discussion about our topics and kind of just bounce ideas off each other to be more successful and be better at what we do. I mean, that's the idea, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Elise, since you are the one taking charge for the recording, you want to be the one to go first?
Sure. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because it's a lot of times when I've done conference calls like this or mastermind type things, I talk about a lot of the same stuff, which is, how to get the customer on the phone and stuff like that. But something that I was thinking of is, what are your guys' thoughts when you have a BDC team essentially, and there's so many, depending on the dealer, there's so many different types of calls that they could be making, right? They could be following up with internet customers that submit, internet requests. They could be following up with unsold traffic, depending on if they're store salesmen do that. They could be doing equity mining calls, missed appointment, some of them even service calls, happy birthday calls, sold customers, and so forth. So do you guys typically assign, per rep, an allowance kind of in each category? Or, what are your thoughts on, I've had some dealers that prefer it, one person specializes in this and this and this. But the thing that kind of caught my attention on that is, if you were a BDC rep and you were paid strictly on appointments and, pretty much appointments as the main thing, you probably, I would say like the more difficult call or the calls that, is, you don't get as good results at would be unsold traffic, right? I mean, just my opinion. Right. The better connection rates that I found, the easier appointments to schedule are the equity mining calls. And those are really a lot of times, it's a whole category that a lot of dealerships haven't even tapped into. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, as far as, make sure that you have coverage on all the various types of calls versus, you kind of spread it out, or you have an assigned person for each category?
For myself, I'll kind of jump in here. For myself, I don't have a specific rep that handles certain types of calls as of yet. I have a fairly fresh BDC. When I started back in May, there were 6 girls working in the department, and one of them had been there for a week. She'd worked there years ago, left and came back. And essentially, I've removed 5 of the ladies that were there before. Personal reasons for themselves, just weren't able to work out, or just performance-wise. So I have 3 other ladies that are pretty much new to the business. So I don't have anybody blocked out just yet. I'm kind of finding their strengths and their weaknesses. And then from there, I'll kind of start to put them towards, like, if one person is strong at, doing our VIP exchange program or equity mining, then I'll have, them focus on that, and then kind of have some focus on unsold showroom follow-up, and some focus mostly on, internet, depending on where their strengths and weaknesses lie.
Gotcha.
I've always been a fan of people playing to their strengths. Yeah, I think everybody should play to their strengths the best that they can. But like I said, at my company it works a little bit different. So like if we get any leads in, they just go to a select number of guys that's actually just salespeople as it is. A formal BDC is currently in its way.
Well, my thoughts on that. So here's the big topic. It always gets brought up. Is it better to have a BDC that only focuses on setting appointments to the showroom floor, or, a dealership essentially that is cross-trained in all various areas, so is able to handle floor traffic, work skills cradle to the grave, knows how to take a phone up, basically is cross-trained in all those areas, not separated in the sense of we have our floor sales people who may be better, with the customers face, and then a BDC department that strictly focuses on appointment scheduling only.
One of the things that's
a topic that's always like,
it's hugely discussed, and one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about that, regardless of which structure works, and I've had all of them. I've had internet sales, cradle to grave. I've had appointment setting 100%, and then I've had a mixed structure where there were a handful of sales reps and appointment setters taking the leads that would come in. But the thing that drives me absolutely crazy is when people think that they can set up a BDC or an independent internet sales team and not train anybody else how to talk on the phone. They're still making outbound phone calls. They still suck.
Right.
It's still a problem.
Right. Right.
But back onto that original question or topic that Elise had suggested, when I did my very first BDC, I didn't allow the reps to take inbound phone calls until they called off of hard copy photocopies of service ROs. And they could set 10 appointments a day on a vehicle exchange, an old Jerry Linsky script. Until they could do that, they weren't allowed to get those fresh opportunities. I think that if you don't have some type of system, people are going to go to the easiest thing, right? They're going to cherry pick, and they're going to want to handle those inbound opportunities fast. But those aren't...
I got it. Sorry about it.
Those aren't always the most profitable for the dealership. The equity mining most typically are going to be you're catching somebody before they're in that mode of grinding on price.
Oh, I love that idea about it. It makes me so excited because it's like a customer that goes online, they've already put themselves in the mentality that they're in the market for a car. So they're doing all their research.
Mm-hmm.
They might be cross-shopping you against another competitor, and they're in that mode. But boom, somebody that already bought from your dealership woke up that morning, or getting ready for work, they get a phone call, right? And the dealership is the one that's pulling them into the market.
Right.
And then you're giving them a very specific reason. And all goes into that property and trust, the way that you play it. But then you're pulling them into the market. So by the time they do get to your dealership, they don't have all their, I got a quote here, and this is, another email that I got from XYZ competitor,
right.
You doesn't beat it. Like, there's none of that. It's just, but it's also a matter of, the process that you have in place to keep everybody's on the same page. You can't, especially if you have a separated either sales and a BDC scheduled and equity minded customer. And then that customer comes in, under the impression of, hey, I have 2014 Buick Enclave, and I want to see if I can get into a new one for about the payment. The whole mindset is different because it needs to be stay focused on being really interested in your car.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that communication isn't there, then the sales guy's like, well, what do you want to buy? And it goes into the whole, I want to sell you a car.
And it's a bad experience.
That the communication there is, it's all about just upgrading essentially. And we have a specific need, for that car. So making sure that process is smooth all the way out. But as you said, cherry pick. I think that's great as far as rewards essentially. You're not going to be able to take bonus or do this until you can, make sure that you can master.
Well, they have to, and that's a captive audience, so it's actually a great way to train your new team members. Plus, you're getting them. A lot of people, when you can say, I'm going to get you into a newer vehicle at the same or a lower price, more people are going to respond. So you're going to build up their confidence early on before they start, where they got to call 5, 6, 7 times before anybody answers. So that worked out well for me. But in recent years, I've done equity mining as campaigns. So I break apart my service appointment scheduling, not as in for service appointments, but I guess I break it apart in stocking strategy. Mining. So it's not necessarily a vehicle that's going to be an equity, but it's something that I sell very quickly. And I want that car because I want to flip them into something else because I know I can sell it in 15 days. So I have my teams look at the service appointments for the next day for a high positive stocking strategy. Call to make appointments to do trade appraisals on those, which is a little bit different than just an equity mining call. And then I like to run equity mining campaigns at a certain time during the month now, so that it's not necessarily all mixed in. And I have had people who specialize, and then I've had teams that can do it all. It really is like they said earlier, that it's going to depend on the strength of the team.
I think to a certain extent, though, a lot of the same common characteristics have to be there. The mindset again of not laying out all of your cards over the phone. And I think that's a lot of times when you have a salesperson who might be on the floor, they're so used to selling face to face and working car deals face to face, and they typically know a lot of information, almost too much information for their own good. And so when they're on the phone, they forget to kind of switch that hat around and realize that the phone call, don't work the deal over the phone. Don't discuss all the details that you may know about the lease and this and that, but focus that phone call. Same selling skills, but focusing that phone call with the process to schedule that appointment. But as far as with equity mining and just the different types of opportunities that they work, that platform of whether it's a BDC rep or a sales rep, even if I sold cars, even if any of us sold cars on the front line, a rare characteristic is somebody that is really awesome on the floor, but also, taken the next step to skill themselves on the phone. Typically, you kind of see that separation of I'm awesome on the floor, but when I don't have a customer in front of me, I'm going to chill by the window and wait for another. From what I've seen, from what I've seen, that's the majority. Pardon me if I'm wrong.
Well, no, you see that.
I think it all comes back to accountability as far as who's taking charge of this. Managers have to make sure that their sales staff is working on this kind of stuff because. And one of the huge advantages of a BDC is that you have such tight control with your manager being stationed in earshot of all of your phone guys. Just make the calls. You're watching them making the calls. You're listening to them. You know they say the right things. You can adjust them while they're on the call, go over their shoulder and talk to them a little bit and give them that kind of advice. Or take the phone call and close it yourself. Whereas when you have a huge sales floor, it's impossible for those managers to be walking around and listening to the phone calls the guys are making while also desking all of their deals and going about everything the sales manager already has to do. So, no matter what, I don't think that salespeople are going to get that skill level that a dedicated phone person is going to get. It's impossible.
Well, it's not impossible. Not impossible.
They sometimes start salespeople now in the BDC.
Yes.
They say, we'll put you on the sales floor, but I want you to chill with our BDC people for like 2 weeks
or
to kind of get that down.
Or conversely,
No, it's not the attention center. Honestly, Elise has the proper idea right there. What I do in my store is anytime I get a new salesperson in, completely free, no credit card experience. But they spend a full month in BDC, and that's all they do is they make phone calls. Because let's face it, I could take a hobo off the street, put him at a desk with a computer, and it's all the sales managers there. You're still going to close 50% of the deals that come in front of them. But you can't teach proper phone skills unless he's in the right environment. So any salesperson that's brand new to the business has to start off in the BDC, has to understand the proper process for follow-up, proper process for phone calls, and then once they've shown the experience and the aptitude with that, then they can go on into the floor, and then they can start taking the floor ups.
Yeah. I've done that too, where half of the BDC would transfer out. After a 90-day rolling average of 30 units assisted, if they wanted to go to the sales floor, they could. And everybody thought I was insane. They're like, you're losing your best, most talented appointment setters. They're selling all these cars. And I said, no, I'm infiltrating the entire auto group with people that actually know how to use the CRM, know how to use the phone, know how to actually have those and get people to come into the store. That's good business.
I agree 100%.
You guys find a separation. Okay. I don't know who that was. Go ahead. Was that Joel again? Or?
No, that was the man.
Oh.
No, that was Mr. McCormick.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying I liked how she used the terminology there to infiltrate the rest of the sales team. That is awesome. Just kind of dig your way in there.
That's right.
See, it blows my mind right now because can you guys all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I was on Auto Dealer Live with Frank Lopes and a few other people, and we had mentioned, a couple of people had mentioned having your sales staff start in the BDC for at least 2 weeks before going onto the sales floor. And during a manager's meeting that I had on a Saturday morning after our full sales meeting, I had mentioned that because we're having an issue where salespeople are literally sitting at their desks, holding their cell phone, not looking out the window. And then there are a few that are looking out the window, and then the rest are standing out on the point, not making phone calls, not doing anything to drive traffic. They're just waiting for the ups bus. And I mentioned, why don't we bring the salespeople into the BDC where I can train them on how to utilize the CRM, how to make the phone calls, and how to make sure that they know what to do to help drive business. And I got shot down. What's funny about this is that just the other day, my GM walked into the showroom, and guess what he saw and complained about? We have like 17, 18 salespeople, and more than 60% of them were sitting at their desks, faces buried into their cell phones, texting, Facebooking, all that stuff, and we had a dead showroom. And what did he tell everybody to do? Start making phone calls.
On the phone.
I was like, is my idea such a bad idea now?
Maybe they were crowdsourcing on Twitter.
Blew my mind.
Right.
Sure.
Well, that was, I hate to see that kind of, that separation essentially, because I know, with me, when I was back at the Honda store, for up to a certain point, I started on the sales floor when I first got in the car business. Then when I started working in the internet department, it was just me essentially at that beginning point. It was a cradle to the grave process. And then, there was a point where the store, essentially bought more leads and so forth, and they kind of put me as like a one-person BDC, and in doing that, I know like my biggest frustration was while I'm back there on the phone doing this and that, things that I would normally do anyways, when I was working at Cradle to the Grave, because that was the only way that I was doing the business. So I see a lot of frustration, a lot of times with BDC people hammering off the phone, doing this, doing that, and then looking out, their glass window, if they have a glass window or anything of that nature, and it's like the sales guys out there that, doing just kind of hanging out, waiting for things to happen. And I feel like that's as far as from a labor standpoint, is there any solution to be able to fix that problem? Because, are we capable of training salespeople, right, to maximize that time to be making phone calls and to be doing all the things that a BDC typically is so skilled at? What are you guys, or is it just...
You guys hear me all?
No.
Are we
Yeah,
capable?
you hear me all?
That actually,
Is that Seth?
Yeah, it is. So, I want to speak to what Elise said. We don't run a BDC here, which is bad, whatever. We have Cradle to Grave Internet. But what we do is we run a rotation, right? And so we have a BDC room, and you put your salespeople in there because then you are maximizing and you're leveraging their time so that you don't have 18 people out spooking your customers in front of your showroom. You have them creating opportunities while they're still guaranteed X amount per day. It makes for the showroom, for the customer, a better environment. Works for us to a certain degree, and obviously it could be better anywhere. But I think that the dealerships that are still using open floors, you're wasting your money if you're not. Why would you pay somebody in a BDC if you've got a bunch of people standing around looking in the window? Get them to work first, and then once you have that process in place, then bring in the BDC to create extra business and appointments.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that. Is there ever a moment though in that process, and this is why I've seen a lot of dealerships do like a hybrid version. Is there ever a moment if you had a Cradle to the Grave process where all of your reps are with customers on test drive, and then a lead comes in?
All the time, and unfortunately at that point I become a ninja and I get behind the computer and I go 100 miles an hour and I answer all the leads and incoming emails. Now obviously,
is that Seth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not always like that. But there's Saturdays or Sundays where I'm losing my mind because they're running around with customers, which is kind of a good problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the pitfall. I would love to have maybe like 4 full-time BDC people backing me up and my guys, so when they are busy, they can jump on the. But when my people are in front of the computer handling the internet leads, then they can start equity mining, prospecting, something like that.
Right.
Hold on. I think Chris is giving us a tour of his house.
Nice.
Continue, Chris.
Seth, I wanted to point out, first of all, that I agree with you, and I know we don't agree very often, so I wanted to write it down on the calendar. But I love that. That's what I did at Tampa Honda when I was out in Florida, was I had a hybrid system where I had 4 internet guys, and then I had 4 BDC ladies. And my internet guys were Cradle to Grave, and I had them, if they were available, I wanted them on the internet leads from the get-go, and I trained them to set an appointment, like Elise, like you had mentioned. A lot of the time, the sales guys have that mentality to give up too much information because they're trying to sell the car, not realizing they need to sell the appointment first, get them in, and then sell the car. So I got them trained on how to sell the appointment, get them in the door, and then if they were busy with customers on test drives, whatever the case may be, then the BDC could jump in, handle the lead. They knew how to handle it, make the phone call, try to help them set an appointment. But I utilized the BDC to do equity mining, unsold showroom, handling all inbound phone calls, and then assisting with long-term follow-up.
See, that sounds like the perfect thing. What were your floor guys doing, though, during that time? Were they sitting out front doing nothing, or did you guys have them working too?
The floor guys should have been doing phone calls, emails, all that stuff to get people in the door. So before I had left the dealership, they had incorporated the Next Up, and a lot of people were upset about it because they couldn't grab 30 customers in a day, blow out 28, and try to sell 2 cars. You know what I mean? So it forced everybody, if you were on point, to have to work that customer, because that may be your only customer for the day. Because we had, I think, 23, 24 salespeople at the Honda store. So they were forced to be quality with every person they talked to versus prejudging somebody saying, nah, you're not going to buy a car, so I'm going to try to kick you out so I can grab the next person. So the idea with the Next Up was to, have the people that weren't up or on bat, next at bat, to be making the phone calls, doing the emails, videos, and all that stuff to try to generate their own traffic.
And
I think
that's
that
another thing like that.
depends on the people that you have in the store. Whichever system you decide to go with, whether it's a strict BDC, whether it's going cradle to grave, whether it's a hybrid system, it's got to be built around the people that you have in the store. I mean, I've worked in stores that start off as BDC. We went to cradle to grave because the salespeople would take the internet ops. If they just decided, okay, I'm not making $1,500 on this deal, I'm taking them out the door, we had no sort of recourse to it. So we switched to cradle to grave. I worked in a store where it started off cradle to grave because that was the grand idea of the GM, but the people in the store just couldn't work in a system like that, so we had to install a BDC. So it's really just whatever the people you have in the BDC, whatever their strengths are, that's the system you got to install. Or, on the alternate point, if there's a specific system that you want to install and you don't have the people, you need to broom them out the door, you need to get in the right people in order to work that, because you have both, you can't have one or just the other.
And I've heard this before too. A lot of times investing in a BDC, you put them through training, and they're, for whatever reason, they don't. Again, the question: could I have trained my salespeople to do this, right the first time? Because it's almost like, again, I understand the concept of having, a crutch basically, because I can't get my salespeople to make phone calls and do this and so forth.
But that's a whole culture change, though.
That's a weak manager.
It is a weak manager, but you guys, it's the reality that we're faced with a lot in stores. And if you think from the dealer principal standpoint, do you want your managers to hold the sales team accountable? Absolutely. Do you want to have them? First of all, your managers have to be trained how to manage. It can't just be a 30-month sales guy that got promoted to be a manager. Just because he sold a lot of cars doesn't mean he knows how to lead and hold a team accountable. So when we talk about a shift...
Isn't that always the case, though?
Isn't that what? Oh, yeah, it is always the case. It is. It's like 95% of the time. That's how you become a sales manager. But that's a whole culture shift in a dealership. So why some people say a BDC is a crutch, sometimes you have to have it there. It's the Band-Aid while you fix what else is wrong in your store. But too many times people don't use it as an opportunity to help them capture the deals. They just use it for incoming opportunities, not to help pick up any incremental car business. And maybe if you could pick up the incremental car business, you could invest it in training. But that's a whole different topic because we invest so little in training in our dealerships. It's ridiculous.
I could agree with Jennifer more on that. With our setup, people would always ask, well, what do your salespeople do all day if your BDC is taking incoming calls and responding to all the outbound leads? But we were high volume. I mean, between 4 of our stores, we were doing 800-900 cars a month. 85% of those deals were by appointment. 60% were BDC appointments. The other 25% were salespeople appointments. And the salespeople are making appointments on their BBACs, on prospecting, on the service drive. So there's always somebody to call, and there's always a list from the manufacturer to call. It confuses me when I get questioned by dealers, well, what are my salespeople going to do all day? Well, how about they sell cars first, since that's an effing job, right? Let's let the BDC put people in front of them so they can sell cars. And then when they have downtime, they can call the stuff that isn't time sensitive. I mean, having salespeople responding to leads when it's time sensitive, Seth, that's exactly what you were talking about. When all of your people are out there working deals, you're sitting there like a madman trying to answer leads, and that can't be an efficient process for you. It really
No,
can.
not typically. It isn't. It's I would prefer to have BDC people, but obviously when you're in the dealership environment, you deal with what you have. So I make the best that I can. In a perfect world, I'd have 4 to 6 people that would cover my shifts to back us up, and when my people were available to answer the internet leads, yeah, you would want them actually developing business and not just handling stuff that's already currently coming in.
Did you really say that you want BDC?
I would love to have a hybrid system. I think that would be the perfect environment. I would rather have my cradle to grave people because we're looking at a higher gross average out of my cradle to grave internet department than the floor guys are, right? So if you train them right and you get killers on there, they can do a great job. But as Lee said, there's that problem of if they do that good of a job and all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with appointments and they're all busy, what do you do? Now, luckily at our store, and it's not perfect, they have someone, a manager like myself, where they let me jump on there and just make crap happen as it goes. But if you didn't have that person who was capable of doing that, you would have periods of time where customers weren't getting called back and whatnot.
So there was, when right before I left retail, it was exactly kind of that. It was a hybrid system. Because after I did the one-person BDC for 8 months, I just got too frustrated with it and wanted to work customers essentially kind of back cradle to the grave. So manager let me do that, and there was 2 other internet reps working fields cradle to the grave, and in that one, in the few scenarios, it's not the majority of the time, but if everybody, of course, all 3 reps were on test drives and so forth, working deals, then we had just a BDC rep, and she basically picked up the leads if everybody was busy, and then there was downtime for her, so she actually kind of helped everybody on the showroom floor too, just like with their letters and their follow-up that didn't seem to get done, by the sales rep. So it was kind of, did
like a sales assistant in the off time, like a sales assistant.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was
That's good.
But go ahead.
I said no. That's.
So, I think a hybrid system. If I were to pick a method, that would be ideal. Just because a hybrid system of the 2. I'm a firm believer that if you're a floor salesperson as well, or you're working with customers face to face, you need to have your phone still locked in place. But I think one of the things that why salespeople don't typically like to talk on the phone too is if you don't have the proper training or the right process in place and you're making those phone calls and you're just putting them in there because you have to say that you made a phone call, or you don't really want to make the phone call, but you're supposed to. If you're not getting the results that you want, then it almost becomes a frustration where it's like this isn't working, and I hate making phone calls because phone calls suck because nobody's calling me back. Because all internet shoppers are going, you get this mindset change, if you're not getting the results that you want. And you can look at that either way. If you're a floor salesperson and, you get maybe one customer that, is a really tough customer, and it's a bad up or whatever. Sometimes that affects your attitude, or you go on a dry spell for a week and you don't sell anything, then you kind of, you become negative about it. So when salespeople, again, aren't getting the results that they want, and oftentimes they haven't got the proper training or they don't have the right process in place, then it's you have to make your phone calls, and it's almost it's like a chore that they have to make phone calls because they're not getting.
There's no value for them.
Who wants to do that, right? Who wants to do stuff that they feel like isn't making them money?
Yeah, there's no value in it.
Their manager told them they have to do it, otherwise, they're going to do a pay cut or whatever. So.
Yeah, they're typically either afraid and don't know what to do, so they don't want to do it. And then if they're forced to do it, they don't get the results, and they want instantaneous results. So when they don't get that, they get even more frustrated and fight doing that even more. Not to end it here, but trying to keep it a little bit organized here and kind of on point. At least if you want a minute to close out anything, unless that's your closeout, I'd like to move on to Jennifer.
Let's move on. We kind of went on 40
I feel like we talked about a lot of topics there.
it's like freestyle all the way around. So yeah, no, I get anybody else, there's some other topics I know I'm bringing over here.
Let's. Why don't we jump to Jennifer's topics? And she talked about management and 30-month sales guys moving up when they shouldn't. What is your role as a member of the management team?
Yeah, this is something I'm always curious about when I talk to other people that are either internet sales directors, BDC managers, or directors. In the hierarchy at your store, how do you interact and what is your role with the rest of the sales management team?
So I'll jump in since I'm a BDC director at my store. Essentially, the way they have it set up for the hierarchy is that I'm on the same level as a sales manager. So then I report to my general sales manager or the general manager. And to be 100% honest, I don't even really report to my general sales manager. I report directly to the GM, and the one thing I know Elise, because I followed you for quite some time, and I know you know this pain. The BDC internet teams are typically where everything is thrown on top of when nobody else wants to get stuff done. When other sales managers or sales people or nobody can do stuff, they toss it onto the internet BDC team, and that's my GM does that because none of the other managers he can feel comfortable getting stuff done. So I get that stuff tossed on top of me, but that's the hierarchy at my store.
I'll jump into that. When I was in my store for 5.5 years, the last group I was with, we had 4 different rooftops, and we had a group GM. And the sales and service departments in each store were separated, but the group GM oversaw each of those locations. So the GSM was responsible for sales at each of the locations. So it was kind of a separate structure where I and our digital marketing director were off on the side of the org chart, reporting up to the GM. And we would hold all of the other managers accountable in our structures so that if the GM had something done at different locations, he would ask us to follow up with it. So while they didn't necessarily report to us, they were accountable to us, and they learned that, if they didn't have the answer for us to give to him or they wanted to give us pushback, then the GM would kind of remind them of the place and where it was coming from, that it was his request. So, Jared, I kind of hear you a little bit that it's kind of like being the GM's shark and their right-hand guy and their gopher and secretary kind of all at once, right? That's what a lot of us end up in the role.
Oh yeah, and it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. The curse is obviously where everything gets tossed on your plate to get done, and it kind of pulls you from your primary function, which is making sure the BDC is operating at its fullest potential, which I'm going through that pain right now. The blessing is that when I go to get something done and I do get pushed back, the GM's pretty quick to come in and fix it. So that's the blessing part of it.
See, from our side, I work.
Okay, Dominic. Go ahead,
Dominic.
Okay, sure. So in our dealership, I'm actually the assistant BDM, but I'm essentially the floor manager for our BDC. My boss is the internet director, but he has a lot more of the administrative type roles. And I mean, he's doing the big picture stuff for the most part, but I monitor that. But he becomes essentially almost the inquisition when it comes to the dealership. He's monitoring for any kind of problems that we have. I mean, because we're the heartbeat of the dealership, everything that happens, if there is a problem, we find it first. Like most dealerships, there's plenty of those problems. So as far as a role goes, really, we end up being more problem solvers than anything else, and monitoring the staff is sort of how that breaks out. But we report to our general sales manager who handles any of the disputes and things like that.
So when you because of course I've had multiple different scenarios. I've been a glorified babysitter, which I was on the same level as sales managers, but when it really came to push come to shove, it's a sales manager. But then I've also been in a position where I reported directly to the dealer principal and general managers were held accountable to our KPI. So it's been, from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I guess what I really want to kind of talk about on this is granted, we report too. We're all supposed to be the same, but is that really happening? Are you getting a collaborative management leadership team style thing going on with the rest of the sales managers? Or are you on your own little island in your little BDC annex and then they're doing the floor? That's what I'm curious to kind of find out about, because I know what I think is much more effective, but I'm curious for everybody else. Is it really a collaborative, you are a sales manager? Because I think a BDC manager, an internet manager, is a sales manager, which some sales managers don't agree with me. So that's what I was kind of curious about.
If I was speaking that, even though my title is internet director and I don't desk deals, I'm absolutely a sales manager. We don't necessarily draw out some hierarchy, but there's absolutely no doubt that I have the same authorities or whatever to make deals. I don't know if that makes sense. They dump whatever in my lap, but it's create deals. So whether that's generating traffic for the floor, I'm doing other things, and then I can trust my closers at my dealership or my sales manager to make the deal. Or if I need to go down on the floor, shut deals, do whatever. It's more find where the hole is at that moment, dive in and create more deals.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky and blessed that they trust me to do that without micromanaging what I'm up to day to day.
That's because you're a badass.
Well, I work for a couple of small dealerships, but as the BDC manager, I am on the same level as the general sales managers. I can actually go in, I can desk deals, I can do trade appraisals, I can do TOs, I can do all that stuff. So in terms of official duties while I run the BDC, if one of the GSM is away on vacation, I'll head over to the store and I'll cover his desk for a couple of days. Yeah. If one's out sick or he's up at a wedding or something, I can go down and I can take care of his duties for a couple of days. I would love to say it's a collaborative effort. Fortunately, I work in a couple of stores where the sales people really run the roost. So if they don't like something I do, they can't this. And that's when I have to put love start boxing with the GSMs, because they think the salesperson should do the best way. But my authority is on the same level as the GSM. The only time I ever have to report to a GSM for anything is if I'm trying to work a deal that's totally crazy and I have to get his approval to whether or not he wants to take the deal. But otherwise, I pretty much have my way with whatever it is I need to do.
Nice.
It'd be nice if it was a more collaborative effort with us, but we certainly don't have that kind of cooperation. I've sort of worked and seen both sides of the coin. The two dealerships that I've worked for are almost like puzzle pieces that fit together and don't have any similarities. But at this current one, we bring people in and it's like we're fighting for every step, and we don't really have any power to change anything outside of our little section. I mean, we've got ours, they've got theirs, and we try to work together, but it's not collaboration. It's certainly not that.
Well, the way I see it is, if the issue with collaboration happens to be some of the salespeople, just deal with the salespeople that want to work with you and let everybody else suffer on their own. Then when they sit there kick and scream, oh, this guy's getting all these deals, this guy's getting all this help, he's making a lot more money, things need to change around, the answer is tough luck. You had your opportunity, you were asked to collaborate, you said no, you want to do everything my own way, so you got to sit off in the corner and suffer unless you want to change your tune and start doing things this way.
Yep, on the bus or off the bus.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, baby.
Yeah, she woke up and she just enjoyed this too. She's
We actually, I wanted to mention real quick, I actually had an incident yesterday, speaking of the hierarchy and the sales managers, one of the things that I've always witnessed in all the stores that I've been at, the sales desk doesn't necessarily care for the internet team or the BDC team because they look at it that we're the give it away department, right? So yeah, we're trying to generate traffic, but we typically give stuff away to get them in the door, and that's what they hate. And I have the same authority as the sales managers, as I mentioned before, and I had quoted a customer some numbers and told her that I'll make her a deal. Come on in, you'll get a discount off the price you saw it for online. I'll make you happy. She had a bad experience at one of our sister stores. And I got her in, and I TO'd it, and I got her happy. I had the salesperson show her some competitive cars, and she ended up falling in love with a Hyundai. And then the sales manager the sales manager wanted to pencil her at full pop, even though he knew that I told her that I was going to give her a discount. I didn't tell her I was going to give her a big discount, and I wasn't trying to give the car away. Like, he flat out jumped and started penciling it at full pop plus a New England package, which is an $1,800 add-on. And I had to step up. He said, don't tell me how to desk my deals. And I said, I'm going to step in and I'm going to take over this entire deal if you're not going to do it the way that I set it up beforehand, because that's going to kill the experience that we set up for the customer to have before they came in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the GSM ended up jumping in saying, that's the deal the way that he set it up and leave it be. You know, and it's like, that should happen.
Jared, you run into that.
With that one manager, yes, I run into that. I've run into it several times. And actually, before we got on, I was receiving text messages all day because I had quoted and I had finalized a deal on a car yesterday. The guy was coming in today to take delivery of it. And last night, that sales manager decided to sell the car out from underneath me and the customer that I sold it to. So I was texting. I didn't have a deposit. Our policy is in place. I don't have to have the deposit if I have a deal that's been approved, which I did. I had the deal in the system. I had a lender. The guy was giving us $3,300 down. The whole thing was done. It was in the system. It was there to be seen. And I know that sales manager saw it because I told him about it yesterday before I left. But we had another guy that I got in last night, and they switched him to that car, and they full popped it. The guy didn't take delivery. He's supposed to come in tomorrow to get it. But my other guy was coming in today to get that car. And I had to do a lot of text messaging today to get it all taken care of so that customer's happy. And now my guy that bought last night that's supposed to come in tomorrow, I got to go and find him a car now because they promised him that one.
That's called ego interfering with profits. That's what that is.
Oh, yeah.
But that's something we deal with, right? We're all alpha. We're all competitive. That's what makes us great in this business. And actually, that really kind of ties perfectly in, Jared, with, you know, what is your role and how do you fit? And is it a power play? You know, that's something that is even more difficult, and I'm not going to pull a gender card here, but here comes in, right, this little girl into your dealership trying to tell you, and you've been on the desk for 30 damn years, how to sell more cars. I run into that ego issue so many times, but I think the same thing, and anytime you're trying to find your place. I always have said to people, I'm a gardener. I come in, I sprinkle seeds, and I water them and I let them grow. I don't give two shits if I get credit. I'm sorry if we're not supposed to curse on this. I got a problem. I'm in the car business. So the thing of it is earmuffs. Oh, sorry, baby.
I got the headphones on, so she's good.
We're good. But the thing of it is that ego is going to get in the way. And if you are responsible for the success of the department, or if you get a bonus based off of the increased unit sales from the store, then I think in our role as internet or BDC, we've got to be the person to kind of swallow our pride. And it sucks. I will tell you it sucks. But when you figure out a way, you have to sell it to that old school guy. Right? Just the way when you were selling cars on the floor, you had to figure out how to sell and show the value to the customer about that particular model. You got to do the same thing with your appointments or your department when you're in this role. And if you don't find a way to sell it to that old school guy and make him take ownership of it, does he want to be, okay, I'm sure there's some old school women too that are pretty hard-headed as well. I might have been accused of that, but the thing of it is that how are you going to succeed and beat that guy? Like, Jared, what's your plan? How do you plan to continue to sell more cars when you got this guy at the desk who you know is probably purposefully trying to make you look like an asshole?
Right. That comes down to having a manager meeting with all the managers, including the DM. I had to pull my GM aside because we were doing auto alert when I started at the dealership, and we recently switched to JM&A's Auto Sales Squared, and my GM wanted me to head that up. So I had to build a team of salespeople that could handle service selling. And we do, I'm sure a lot of dealerships do this. We have like a team A and a team B to make sure you have the proper coverage. And I pulled 3 guys, and there's a team leader for each team. And we just brought in a new team leader who was, he calls himself Dr. Nissan, who has this big ego, and he goes to one of my guys that's selling service now, strictly service, and keeps pulling him in multiple directions. And then pulled him off his desk and put another girl to sit at his desk because she needed to make phone calls. So he had a big ego trip, and I had to get the GM involved to go over and say, this is Jared's guy, this is his desk, he needs to make phone calls, you need to stop what you're doing. So I think it comes down to simply just having a manager meeting to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because if you don't have that, then you're going to continue to have, like I did yesterday, with that sales manager who's going to try to kind of weasel his way in and kind of blow things up intentionally. So,
well, now something I'm going to cut in on this for just a second too, because something else you'll have in that meeting is a discussion on online reputation management. Because everything's going to go straight in the toilet with reviews when you have managers doing stuff like that.
I agree 100%. If you were to look at our reviews when I first started, we were only on Google and DealerRater, we were just above 4, like 4.1, 4.2. And Facebook, Yelp, Cars.com, Edmunds, we were at like either a 2 or a 3 rating, 3.3, 3.4, or something like that. Because we had a lot of customers that were coming in, getting that experience, like they were setting something up with the BDC. They had this preconceived notion that it was going to be a great experience, and when they come in, they had nothing like what was told, so then they'd go online and write a bad review, and we had a lot of bad reviews. So I've been pushing really hard for us to get Facebook reviews, Google reviews, all the different review sites to try to boost our ratings. So we do have happy customers, but we're not asking. We're just having way too many bad experiences. So the reputation management is definitely a huge portion of this.
It's not a preconceived notion. It's a process that we explain to them would happen. I think that's another huge issue. It ties right into the two of them, that if they're coming in from a BDC or an internet appointment and they've spent 2 weeks or 2 months telling their whole story, going through the whole process with the BDC, and we explain this is what's going to happen. It's just like when we do advertising and say that, we do that one thing, and then they come in and the salespeople don't know anything about the one thing. It's the same exact situation, and that's going to lead into it, because I think that, I know we've talked about this before, is looking at your BDC more as marketing, not just appointment setting, because if they are the first impression, and in so many times they are on those inbound phone calls and that internet stuff, if they're painting a picture, it's not a preconceived notion, it's what we've trained them to tell our customers to expect. And if they don't get that when they come into the store, your chances and your shown close is going to go in the toilet. And like Will said, your reputation scores are going to reflect that.
100% agree.
Yep. So what are some of the, since we're kind of still on this topic, what are some of the things you guys have done in store to help foster a consistent message, to make sure that transition, when you're not doing cradle to grave, when you're doing appointment setting, make sure that transition is fluid from the expectations you're setting on the phone to at least part of what the customer gets in store?
So for myself, I'm on the sales floor often because if you picture a sales floor, and then you have a sales desk kind of in your back wall, and then behind that, the sales desk is like a GM's office. That's where my BDC sits, right? It's kind of a cramped office where 5 of us sit in, but that's where we sit. So I'm right next to the sales desk, so I see and hear what's going on, and I'm right next to the floor. So I go out on the floor consistently every single day to make sure that the people that I have appointments set up with, because I'll get it set up ahead of time. So let's say if Jen, if you're coming in today at 3 o'clock, I'd go out to one of my sales consultants and say, hey, I have this lady coming in today. She's looking at a 2017 Hyundai Sonata. This is the car. Have it pulled up front. Have it ready to go. Make sure it's clean and presentable. It doesn't need to be spotless, but it needs to be presentable. And make sure you know all the features that it has, because this is what she's looking for. And then I have everything notated in the system. When you come in, Jennifer, you would ask for me. I would come out. I would introduce you to the sales consultant that I had set up for you, and then I have them follow you, have you go through the steps with them, see the vehicle, put your hands on it, drive it, fall in love with it, do an appraisal if there is one, and then the sales desk will take care of the rest with doing the rest of the numbers.
In my stores, I got something pretty similar in place, primarily because it's 3 stores and each one's about 45 minutes from each other. Every morning I send out an email to all the sales managers. This is the customers you've got coming for the day. This is the time. This is the vehicle that they're on. If it's a specific stock number, here's the stock number. If we worked any sort of numbers, if there's any sort of a trade involved, I put in all the information right there in the email. Everything is echoed in the CRM. This is what their expectations are. Please have the vehicle pulled up and ready half hour before they're set to come in. Make sure everything with the car is clean. Make sure you have a salesperson's ready. And I also have the customer come in. I have them ask directly for the sales manager. Even the store that I'm physically located at, I don't have them ask for me. I have them ask directly for the general sales manager. My frame of mind being that the GSM is the one that goes in and does the deals on the deals anyway. If he meets them at the very beginning of the process, introduces himself, and does the handoff to the salesperson, now he's a known quantity. He's no longer the boogeyman when he goes in to do the TO. I have pretty good success with the whole process. Again, the whole distance between the stores is the big hurdle for me. Certainly things will be a little bit tighter, but given what I have, that's what I found work the best.
So one thing that I have done in the past, the most effective thing, and I would say there's no new ideas. I totally stole this from Ritz-Carlton, is a lineup. So 10 minutes, it's not a meeting. It is, and you can either do it, depending upon your store, if you have an appointment board, some OEMs require that you have a giant TV with those appointments listed and who they're coming in to see and all that good stuff. But if you have an appointment board, great. If not, just print out the appointment report. Stand with the sales managers and say, this is Smith. She's coming in. Mrs. Smith, she had a BK. This is Mr. Miller. He's coming in. He's looking at a pickup truck. He needs somebody who really knows the tow capacity because he's got an RV. Right? Run down who you have coming in. Ritz-Carlton does it with their staff every morning. This person's coming in. They like Diet Mountain Dew. This person's going to be here. They had a plumbing problem the last time. Let's double check their room and make sure they don't. So that the staff is prepared to greet the customers and consumers and give them that amazing experience. Because here is the thing. I'm sick and tired of people saying that internet deals don't have any gross. I run internet departments with an average per copy of $3,300 if you do it the right way. Yep. You can get gross, but the problem is we don't have a good handoff. Those consumers are let down from the minute they walk into the store, and you got BDC agents or appointment setters that, if they get paid on the showns and the solds, and we have a problem in our handoff process, that shown close is going to be 30% when it should be 50, 60, 70%. But that lineup helped me take one store that was a 32% shown close to a 65% shown close in 3 weeks. Just by quickly running down with the managers. Because what that did, and I had a super old school guy there, it made him feel like the hero. When he could touch the piece of paper, and don't make them be digital. If they like to touch a piece of paper, let them touch a piece of paper. Yeah. He could touch the piece of paper that had the customer's name on there. And I said, I really need your help with Mrs. Smith. She had a BK, but she makes enough money. It's this, that, it's whatever. I know you'll find the right salesperson to get her into a car. And he took ownership of that. And then he got to take credit for the sale. And then it was like, yay. So a lineup has been the most effective thing for me. I mean, we've done lots of stuff. When we've had a centralized situation, we've actually had FaceTime debriefings. So if the salesperson that got assigned the appointment was somewhere else, real quick via FaceTime, tell them what's going on with the customer, let them know what's going on. And then another thing, too, to think about, I've had great success with it, is hand it off when the appointment has been set. Have the salesperson that it's assigned to that's going to take the appointment, if you can do it that way, have them call and confirm the appointment, introduce themselves, briefly talk to the customer, and then go from there.
On point, 100%.
Actually, it goes with something I had in mind for our store. It's having, because we're like I said, we're about to set up a formal BDC itself. As of right now, it's just a couple of guys in each of our rooftops that's that's handling the internet leads. So my thought was having, when these BDC reps come into play, having them that basically they're going to throw the ball up the volley for somebody else to spike it down. And if that's the case, get them together in little groups or teams with like whoever is their senior salesperson that's going to be handling this, and then they can have that little conversation. It doesn't necessarily have to be the managers, because let's face it, sometimes your managers are disengaged or not really manager material to begin with if they were the 30-car guys that got promoted. So, why not take some of the more interested and well-versed salespeople and just have them work directly with the BDC itself as a handoff process.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we thought about doing at my store is having dedicated people that work specifically only the internet customers that come in, because obviously if my team is paid on shows and solds, I don't want to give customers, to whether it be a green pea because they know nothing, and they're not really hungry enough, or a veteran because they prejudge everybody, and if they don't feel there's a deal, they kick them out right away. You want to give them to the people that are going to, work it like a rock star, give them that red carpet treatment, like what Mike Davenport provides to his customers, and have a high closing percentage. And that's one of the things that I've been for. I haven't really dove headfirst into it, but that's one of the things that I think would be successful for us versus just letting anybody grab the customer.
Well, speaking of that, as far as just prejudging the customer and a lot of bad habits that we all know happen with salespeople, just across the board. So with that, if you were to have the sales rep call, like let's say pre-assign that customer before they showed, do you run into any struggles of a salesperson who's assigned that customer, make the phone call, but then not butcher the deal, but sort of like trying to do some pre-qualifying, right, before that appointment shows. And then they're all worked out because they're like, oh, this person has this bad credit, or, no, they just said they're doing research, not really ready to buy, I really not for taking this appointment. Or, they start asking things like trying to, basically doing everything that maybe the BDC rep did, right, to schedule the appointment. And when the sales rep calls, if they don't have the proper training again on how to confirm an appointment, and they just want to see if, kind of qualify the customer ahead of time, do you run into any issues of that?
Yeah, I kick them off my
The
team.
easiest way to deal with issues like that, first, this is after going through formal training with the salesperson. When you get into the appointment, this is how you confirm it. This is what you do X, Y, Z, A, and B. But for me, in a situation like that, the salesperson's given an appointment, they call, confirm, they come back to me and say, oh, this guy just said he's just taking a test drive, he's not interested, I don't want this appointment. My response to them is, that's great, you're now excluded from the process from now
Bingo.
until the day that you leave the store. Because you take the good with the bad, you don't get to pick and choose from the people that come in the door, you don't get to pick and choose with the entry appointments either. So you either take everybody or take nobody, and that's the way that is.
100%. And that's the way that needs to be. And when I set appointments, I do not allow the salespeople that get pre-assigned, I do not allow them to call and confirm the appointment, because if it's a same-day appointment, I do live confirmations. So let's say if Elise took a phone call, she set an appointment, for today at 8 p.m., then she would patch it over to me real quick. I'd do a quick live confirmation, make sure they know where we're located, to ask for me, and then I'd pre-assign it to a salesperson. And then I do not allow the salesperson to call. And the very first live confirmation that I did when I started back in the end of May, I brought it up to the sales desk, gave to the GSM, and I said, hey, this person's coming in. The car he's coming in on is sold, and he understands that it may not be available, but we need to find some other options for him, so that that's similar. And he said, okay, no problem. What did he do? He gave it to a salesperson who called the customer to tell them the car you want is gone. The customer is now upset because, one, he's talked to 3 people now, the BDC rep, myself, and now the salesperson, all within a 15-minute time frame, and he's being told the car that we had is no longer available, and the guy already knew that. So the customer got frustrated, decided not to come, and he's like, if you guys don't communicate, why would I want to come and buy a car from you? Like, if you guys don't know each other, you're not organized, I don't want to deal with you. So I was like, why did you give it to him to call when I told you it was all set? Just let him come in and, and let's show him some other options. He was already fully aware that there were other options available.
What about this too when it comes to, I guess just the concept of pre-assigning. So let's say a salesperson did call and confirm that appointment. Nothing went wrong. They didn't backpedal. They didn't screw up the deal, but they called and confirmed the appointment, logged it in the CRM, spoke to the customer. But we all know the reality of you don't have a 100% show rate. That doesn't happen. So let's say I'm a salesperson. Hey, I took a few minutes, built some rapport with the customer, and confirmed the appointment. Let's say it's for 4 o'clock. And then let's say at, 3:58, I'm with the customer that I maybe took up on the showroom, and I'm with the customer. I'm going to test drive I'm in the middle of the deal, and that I can't take 2 people. Then let's say the appointment that showed up that I spoke to with on the phone, gets assigned to somebody else. Doesn't that cause frustration? Because a lot of times now I'm going to go, wait a minute, I confirmed that was my appointment. I confirmed it. I spoke to the customer. I helped with the deal. I was just with another customer. So that's kind of like the tricky part. I find salespeople, because it's like you're never going to know who for sure is going to show up. You're never going to have that 100% show ratio. And so pre-assigning it, I guess, is kind of, there always could be, that mix-up of, again, if I have an appointment, but I'm also taking care of floor traffic or someone else comes in and asks for me, then work that out. Do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ever run into that?
Pre-assigning of salespeople is who's doing the pre-assigning. Is it the BDC manager or is it the sales manager? Because you got 2 total. If the BDC manager is pre-assigning, then more times than not, he's probably selecting the person they think is going to work best with the customer. Whereas if the sales manager, he could always end up going to either the big complainer on the floor or someone who's having a tough month and needs a couple of extra customers, or just somebody who needs to do something like that.
That's fine, like that as a BDC manager, like, okay, Jennifer most with the customer and so forth. But again, just putting it in the mindset of Jennifer listening and Joel, hey, from the internet, this and this, and you go, okay, 4 o'clock, that's on your appointment board. But then, 3:30 rolls and the floor is getting really busy. You have to take it up, or someone comes in again, just totally on the limb and asks for you. You go, oh, no, I have a supposed to be confirmed appointment,
No, what?
How do you find that balance? If you pre-assigned appointments, there's no
But there is no guarantee, but I think that comes down to running your business as a salesperson, right? If I got that appointment and I took the up at 3:30 and I'm working with that customer and I got to jump in a test drive, I'm going to take control of my business and know that I necessarily am not going to be there. So I'm going to grab another salesperson that doesn't have a customer that they're currently with as I'm running back and forth to grab the keys for the test drive and say, hey, Jesse, I'm getting ready to go take a test drive. I've got a customer that's supposed to be showing up at 4 o'clock. When they come in and ask for me, I already let the desk know to let you know. Can you grab them and work with them?
You have the opportunity at that point then to decide. So let's say if that customer, and I'm just in scenarios that I've seen, let's say that customer again, that you up. You're like at the end of it, just about at the end of the deal. Like they're going into finance in like 20 minutes. You're getting all the paperwork, and let's say it's a really good deal for you. Really, like it's going to be a very big commission for you. And then your appointment, Joel for you comes in, right? That you're not going to give up your customer that is done.
Crushed them.
So then you give away the appointment. Are you still qualified to have half that appointment?
No way. Not if you didn't talk to him, didn't generate it. You
you spoke to him to confirm the appointment.
Did you really progress the deal? Tag you're in? Give me a
second call.
Yeah, just confirming doesn't earn you the right to half a deal. and I'll gladly fisticuffs in the back club of anybody that says that they get a half a deal just for confirming an appointment. Literally, because if I'm the BDC rep and I'm calling and emailing, and it takes me a month and I finally get an appointment with somebody, and then, all of a sudden, William does a 10-second, hey, I just want to confirm you're still coming in, just ask for me, and he thinks that he's going to get that half that deal, sorry, buddy, but you're out. If you don't help the customer, if you're not showing the car, if you're not doing anything when they're there, and you haven't put in substantial follow-up when they're not there, you don't get anything.
Yeah, my store, it's
I believe so.
At my store, it's rule of thumb, middleman out. I mean, that's it. If you're going to be setting up everything from the get-go, from the meet and greet, and then somebody else comes in, and even let's say they spend 3 hours showing them a car, and the customer doesn't buy that, and then they come in and they wrap it up with a third guy, then that person who spent 3 hours with them doing the bulk of the work, he's just out. That's the way it's been in my store.
Well, then, again, putting it in the mindset, though, of how
I walked away from the craps table about 15 minutes before a 70-minute roll started. I didn't go back to Crapsville and say, hey, I was here 10 minutes ago. I'm going to fill some of the chips that everybody else won. Same thing with the car business. If you come up and go to the appointment, that's great. If you're not there when the customer comes in, doesn't matter if it's the menu, doesn't matter if it's the 6G, you're out because you didn't actually have a people process.
If you're not working with customer credit grade, but I find it hard to pre-assign it for barriers. Or explain the process to the customer and say, okay, great, hey, when you arrive, be sure to ask for Jared. He's our business development manager. He's going to make sure that the car's pulled up front for you. He's going to grab one of our product specialists to make you properly taken care of. And then when that customer arrives, then at that type of, Jared would go out and say, hey, thanks again for stopping in. We have that Chevy Malibu out to show you. I'm going to go grab one of our best, to come and serve you. And then at that point, then it's a sign, like whoever's up at that point. I feel that way you don't run into a lot of the things that we talked about. So, the salesperson screwing up the deal on the phone by confirming you don't have the proper trading. You don't run into any of that because it never happens. You don't have the, who do I take? Do I take enough or do I take this internet customer? Because then a lot of times, even if I'm a floor salesperson and my mindset is, internet customers are all grinders and I don't make as much money on them and I'd rather work for customers, then when even if they haven't closed the deal yet, I've seen floor salespeople say, I'd rather stay with my floor up that I'm about to do a pencil for than take the internet deal that they brought in from TrueCar. You know what I mean? So
real quick, because we have deviated across multiple topics from Jen's original topic.
We're just going with
your work in the management team. So I wanted to give Jen a chance to kind of close out if she wanted to. But I do want to say that for myself on this part real quick is that I don't pre-assign unless I'm ready and the time. If the customer's coming, then I'll just let whoever greets and be the person that's going to. That way I don't have to do it to get that point. But the one thing that I've learned in this business is that there's no golden rule. There's no one thing that's going to make you the most successful. It's a bunch of little things here and there that you can do depending on your market, your franchise, your clientele, your store, and all that stuff. So, but Jen, I'd like to let you close out on anything if you have, and then move on to the next topic if possible.
No, I think that we covered the management side of it for sure. And I think that for anybody that's kind of still struggling to find their place amongst the management team, when you start looking at it as far as your sales penetration, that could really give you a little bit more leverage with the rest of the sales management team, the ones who maybe think the internet or BDC is not as important. If you can sit in that meeting, in that management meeting, and say 60% of all of our units sold are from BDC appointments. So if you're not already able to make sure that you have your place at the table based off of merit and performance, step up and do it based off of your numbers. That's it on the management side.
I agree. I have a good choice going to Dominic because his topic relationship with sales. So I think I'd like to jump to that topic since it's kind of what we were talking about and having that hierarchy. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were already, we had already basically shifted into that with, and I think that, almost talked about with directly our GP appointment process where you set them up directly with a turn it over to the guy that upped them on the lot, thinking that, and this is kind of the idea that's always been brought to my mind is why are we taking care of the salespeople who are upping these guys? The dealer principal doesn't care whether the salesperson upped the guy. He wants the guy that's going to close the deal to be on it. So I just think that, at the end of the day, the most important factor is that you've got the right guy on it. You don't necessarily have to have a salesperson assigned ahead of time. Still do the VIP appointment, let the manager or the BDC manager himself actually set up the salesperson ahead of time, but do it 10 minutes and just let him know, he doesn't, just in the next 10 minutes, this guy's going to show up, get the car out front, I'm going to turn him right over to you, and then move on. But I guess, my overall question, aside from just that, just the overall relationship, from the WOs, and you don't let the BDC talk to your salespeople, whether they communicate it all ahead of time, whether they communicate after the fact. I'm used to just the process of, I get salespeople that call me, why are you bringing this guy back in? That's the question. Why I'm calling this guy. We're already went over all this stuff. I don't want to rehash this. He was just here 2 days ago. What do you think's changed in 2 days? And you get this question all the time. Right. And it doesn't matter whether it is. That's the thing. So a lot of times
the CRM. What's that?
So we'll switch your topic. We're going to switch your topic, Dominic, to is it in the CRM? Are there notations of anything that the salespeople are doing?
And that's not even necessarily.
Exactly.
And that's our policy too. But my question is just, even if everything is in the CRM, even if we bring the people back in, does your sales staff, what kind of communication do you have? What kind of relationship does your BDC have with the salespeople themselves? Is it one of frustration, a lack of communication? Do they communicate? Because I think that that's an important question, because at the same time, salespeople, you brought me in that customer that had bad credit. Why'd you bring him in here? Well, didn't you know that he had 300 credit score and didn't pay the paper boy and just, was never going to be able to get him in? You had a credit app. He's a 400. He wanted a Tahoe at a $400 payment. Why are you wasting your time?
You can't. Yeah, any of us that have sold cars, if you can't judge somebody. If you, I've got a lot of customers that are coming in. You're not going to win all of them, of course. But ended up coming in and you found a way to make it work. You prejudge every one of those customers that now he was not on a lot of money. The truth of it is, regardless of their credit, regardless of their situation, regardless of the objection they tell you, the best opportunity that you're going to have of earning that customer business is when they're face-to-face with someone, period.
Mm-hmm.
As far as communication, my mentality has always been, the CRM needs to be a platform that everybody uses as a communication tool, especially if you have that separation of BDC to sales. And if a salesperson does seek a customer, or let's say application may be, if there's a phone call and connection is made, there should only be 3 results from that phone call, and that should be an appointment, another a grid appointment, a soft appointment, or a phone appointment on what is going to happen next, what the next step is. If he's going to be, he decided, no, don't touch base with me for 3 months because of this, and this. That needs to be, if you just have, your notes that customer came in, made phone call, and that's it. If a BDC rep goes to that file, okay, he came in, he made a phone call, what happened with that phone call? What's happening next with this customer, right? There should be, if a connection was made, it really should result in, that conversation needs to end in an appointment, a soft appointment, or a follow-up plan, a phone call with the customer, understanding on the other end what's going to happen. But I understand that frustration because it happens across the board when BDC, pulls a file up and they're like, I don't know what, I guess we'll just kind of go into this call blindly.
Right.
And then the digital person says, no, I was calling that customer, I got here, log it in the CRM. Everybody has to be, everybody has to be on that same platform for communication. That's crucial.
So
100%. And with that, Elisa, the thing that I like that, one of the things that if you've sold cars that you're told is, you're the new, you don't know anything. And when it comes to my BDC, I have them making the unsold showroom follow-up, and I have them going into the call, regardless of whether there's notes or not, which 99% of the time there are no notes, because we all know salespeople don't like to document anything. Most of the time they don't even document the customer was in the showroom, so they don't have to do the follow-up afterwards. But I have them leading into the phone call blind, and pretending like they don't know anything other than, I can see that you were in the showroom and I wanted to see how your experience was, and kind of play at that aspect to happen, how their experience was, and then kind of start diving into, okay, well, we weren't able to get you approved, but hopefully you had a good experience. Did anything change? Do you have any questions? Is there anything that we can do to maybe try to rehash a deal that would make sense for you? And for me, the way I look at it, the only way that can be successful is if the salesperson that worked with that customer did their job properly, they were on stage, and they wowed them and provided them a feature benefit presentation that the customer is like, I have to have this car. I know my credit sucks, so I need to find a way to come up with a cosigner and or money down so that I can get that car. And if the salesperson did not do that, it's like if Elise, if I showed you a Honda Civic EX Turbo and I didn't show you anything about the car other than I had 4 wheels, 4 doors, a steering wheel, and a shifter, right? And I know you've driven Honda Civics before. I've seen pictures of it. So I don't do anything to wow you about the fact that this is a redesigned car with a turbo that has quite a bit of pep in it, and I can't pull out my inner Honda Pro Jason. If you can't afford that car, if you don't have the credit, then how have I earned the right to call and see if I can get you to find a cosigner or to find money down if I didn't do my job properly from the get-go?
Right. I agree with that. It's the value needs to be there when the customer is there. Not taking shortcuts. Properly doing the sales. When the customer's there. But as far as you said, going blind into the call, sometimes that has to happen. And again, if you have a process put into place, and some type of structure when it comes to scripting, then you usually can do a pretty good follow-up call. Did you have any questions from the visit? A lot of customers do after they leave. Okay, great. Well, hey, did you find a vehicle you'd really like to own while you were here? What was, if you had to pick one reason on, essentially what prevented you from moving forward? What would that one reason be? And kind of pulling that reason out. And from that one reason, that's basically your objection. You can, at that point, again, reschedule your appointment typically. Or, if you can't get an appointment, then you at least have a connection with that customer, and you should have a follow-up plan at that point on what you're going to do next, when you're going to connect next with that customer, and so forth. One of the topics that was on here that let me pull it up here that I was curious about, because I probably am going to have to go pick up my husband that's probably had a few beers at the about the 49ers game. They haven't been scoring, it looks like.
Joel's,
what was to be or not to be an internet customer? What was that all about?
Oh, that was going to be my topic, but we we did that a little bit earlier. But I also kind of wanted to bridge it to, like, say, you've got guys in stores that sometimes have been there for years. I've been with my company for 8 years, right? I've got customers from way back, and I still stay in touch with ones from day one. Now, occasionally they're going to go online. They're going to put in a inquiry online because they don't know what they're clicking on. But let's say that Adam, 5 cubicles down, gets that internet lead. That they're the ones that's working that. And Tom's my former customer. Next thing I know, I'm going up to the door. I see Tom pulling up in his car. I'm going to go out and say hello to him, and you know, then the next thing I know, Adam's going to come up to me and be like, "Hey man, what's the deal? That was my guy."
Why isn't your
to be or not to be?
Why is your CRM not configured?
If that guy showed up at your store and didn't ask for you, that's not your customer. That's the owner's customer. Because if you don't to that point,
that's right,
where they're going to call you when someone else reaches out, that's your bad, and you can't blame the other sales guy for that. So I definitely tell my sales guy, if someone else is with your mom on the showroom floor and she didn't ask for you, stay away, because you obviously don't have the right relationship where she's going to understands what you do for a living. You haven't followed up well enough for him to see. I'm sorry, that's a pet peeve of mine, because you get people all the time and they're, you know, hey, I sold him 6 months ago. That's my customer. No, it's not. You did a half-assed job of following up, and that's how some other salesmen got their grits on it.
You need to create enough value to them where they go, hey, no, I put it online, but I actually, I'm going to work with William. Or they should, sometimes, I'll be honest, that happened to me a few times, and I would take it personally, and I'd go, I need to step up my game and do whatever it takes to where customers, they don't get this 100%, no questions asked. They're going to know who I am, and they're going to, ask me, even if there is a new opportunity later on at that point. They should.
And we know that there's always going to be those customers that no matter what you do, I've seen it multiple times where, I could build a relationship with somebody. I could do follow up with them for a month, and I could talk to them a bunch of times. Maybe I didn't have the right car, and let's say all of a sudden that new car that they wanted came in, and I gave them a great price and all this stuff, and then they come in, and then you know what? They don't ask for me. They get with another salesperson. The salesperson puts them in. Maybe I'm not there at the time, and they work it. And the customer, sometimes it happens where they'll intentionally try to work with somebody else to see if they can get a better price than what you gave them, because maybe they liked your price that you gave them, but maybe they feel that maybe there's money on the table that they could get, a little bit more of a discount. So they work with somebody else in hopes that the first number that they get is better than the number that you gave them, right? Uh-huh. And the thing that sucks about it is that the customer they do not realize that it causes them to waste so much more of their own time to do that. But it's also because they're afraid that we're taking advantage of them, or maybe that we gave them a price that's too good to be true. So they play this whole game, to try to protect themselves, but at the same time, it just ends up hurting them more.
So what do you say, though, if that happens? And no, Jared, I'm not in the bathroom. My office door is shut because I'm at work. But, no, so when you say that, I'm not knocking you, but with my reps will complain about that because it happens to everybody. I just tell them you didn't do a good enough job building rapport with that customer and building value in yourself to where they trusted you enough to stick with you. They may negotiate with you, but if they feel like they have to circle back, talk to someone else to get a better deal, well, you didn't sell yourself well enough. That's how I would.
100%.
Yeah, but it still would happen. I'm not saying that you could ever.
Right.
Cases like that are more the exception than they are the rule. I think if you do a great job with the customer, establishing common ground, building a rapport, giving them all the proper information, working the deal if necessary, and get to the point where you say, come on this Saturday at 2 o'clock, make sure you ask for me. My name is Joel. This is where I work. Come in and ask for me. Most of them are going to do it. You can't prepare for every single customer. Like every single customer that you spoke to over the phone is going to want to come in and ask for someone totally different because they think they're going to get a better deal than something you gave them on the phone.
with that, I want to throw in real quick, and I haven't started doing this, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately because the most important thing to me in the BDC, I don't care about appointments. The appointments are the black and white. What I care about, and I know Seth, you'll agree with me on this, is bodies in the door, right? All I care about is actually people in the dealership on the lot looking at vehicles. That's the most important thing. But to get them to come in and ask for me, one of the things I try to talk to customers, and I'm going to start doing it a little bit more often, is what's it valuable to you? Lise, what's the most important thing to you when it comes to searching for a car? It's your time, right? You don't want to waste your time. So let me do this. When you come in, ask for me. I'm going to have everything prepared so I can save you time when you come in, because the last thing I want to do is have you sit here for 4 hours trying to buy a vehicle, knowing that you got 2 beautiful little girls and a husband at home that they're going to want your time, right? And that's more important to you than spending time at my dealership. Listen, I get paid to be at the dealership, and I don't even want to be there all day. So why should you be?
Right.
Well said.
Did you get paid on shown appointments or on sold cars?
I only get paid on sold, confirmed BDC appointments.
Okay, see, that's why you care about bodies in order, and I do too, because it creates sold cars, but I care more about delivered vehicles. So, but I think that's always just a product of how you're paid. That's why some people may care about appointments. Well, because that's where they're making their money. Me, I'm not going to get paid until somebody's busted bugs down the road. So, yeah, I want the bodies there because that creates the sales. But if my guy's got 100 people on the lot and they sold 20 cars, I'd be furious. Like, that would not be, I wouldn't be happy with that result.
Well, but you have to.
Like I said, I only get paid on sold. That's it. I don't get paid on shown. My BDC gets paid on shown, but I only get paid if the people that they get in the door sell. That's it. That's all I get paid on. So I care about people busting bugs as well, and that's why I work really hard to make sure that whoever they get with is going to be somebody that can actually take care of them the way that I would want to take care of them to have a higher chance of closing them.
Absolutely.
We all only get
It also has
paid.
to do with your mental makeup, because in my position, I'm paid primarily on the shown, not the sold. Yes, I do get a portion of the gross from each store in the sales department at the end of the month, but most of my pay comes from the show. But every month when I'm going over the numbers with my GSMs and my GM and my controller, what's the main thing I always take a look at? It's the number of shown versus the number of sold. And when I see that one of the stores is dipping into like 22% show to sold, that sort of thing drives me nuts, because anytime the volume's down, what's the first place they tend to look? They tend to look at the BDC department. It's like, why don't we have more sales? You guys are getting all these internet leads. And I have to turn around and say, listen, I got 172 people in the showrooms over this last month, and you guys sold a grand total of 35 of them. What's that saying to me? It's saying that you go down to the sales process and the sales floor, you shouldn't just be looking to me to say, why aren't we doing more sales? So it has part to do with the pay plan. It also has part to do with the mental makeup. Finish just means says I need to have 50% show to sold every single month, and if we're not, there's a problem that needs to be fixed.
But it's ultimately, we all only get paid if we sell cars. That's ultimately what it is. But we have to look at the metrics that drive that. And that's why, regardless of your pay plan, yes, people are always going to work towards their pay plan. But if you have a 50% shown close, which I hope that you do have a 50% shown close, then you know that you need to set how many appointments. You need this many people to come in. If you need that many people to come in, what's the math? So how many appointments do you need to set? If you need that many appointments set, then how many phone calls, emails, videos do you need to do? It's all part of it. You can't look at them separately. I report every single day for my stores. I had them stacked. How many leads were there? How many appointments did we set? How many were confirmed? How many showed up? How many sold? So I had a shown sold percentage and an overall close percentage. Layer on top of that, if you weren't at least 15%, I was going to calculate 15% of your leads and tell you how many car deals you're missing. Then it was conditionally formatted. So if any one of those 4 columns, the sat, confirmed, shown, sold, was below the benchmark, it flashed red. And every manager in the entire automotive group saw that your store was under. But it let me know in which one of the 4 areas I needed to focus on that store so we could sell more cars. Because ultimately, we only get paid when we sell cars. Granted, every component drives and pushes to it differently, but I don't think we can look at one only. Because in order to get that sold number where we want it, we got to see where we're hemorrhaging. And looking at those metrics across the board daily is going to show you what's performing and what's not.
I got to check out, you guys. I got to go pick up my husband that's had a few too many beers.
Oh.
Are you going to be back at least, or are you going to be gone for a bit?
I gotta drive down to the beach, which is not too far from here, but it's kind of crazy traffic. So I don't know if you guys. It'll probably round trip will be like half an hour. I don't know if it'll still be on. I can leave this on the days of recording. And
yeah,
do I just turn off my webcam? I just turn off my webcam, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna check out, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Bye, Ellie.
Bye, Elise.
So let's. I'm loving everything that we're talking about. I mean, we've had some really great dialogue here. So why don't we jump to the next topic, which is Mr. Joel Kasser's best practices for confirming appointments.
Joel, where are you?
All right.
Joel, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Part of my issue is what is really the proper method for confirming an appointment? You know, how many confirmations do you do? What times do you do it? Do you do it the night before? Do you do it the morning of? I mean, I personally try to confirm all appointments the night before with phone calls. I try to send out video email to every customer to confirm them. I would really love to get my GSMs in the habit of confirming the appointments as well, because I think a manager confirmation, especially when the manager's meeting, just helps them get in the door. But the question is, what is really a good method as far as going to confirm the appointment?
I don't know if it's a good. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Seth. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is what I do, because I don't have a lot of other managers that pay attention to my internet stuff, unfortunately. They just kind of let me run my thing. But what I typically do is, works for me. I'm sure there's better ways. Is the day of, and that morning, I confirm everything myself. My salespeople think of from the day before, whatever, I don't care. But if they made that appointment the same day, the person's going to show up in 2 hours, I don't reconfirm that. Just because I also don't want to spook people away by having people blowing their phone up. I don't know that it's the best way, but most of our appointments show over 50% for sure. And, that's how I do it. I definitely don't know that's the best way, though.
And I think that can work, and I like the idea of not confirming if they're already coming in that day, like reaching out, trying to call them again, because you don't want to spook them, you don't want to get them upset and frustrated, blowing their phone up. That's why I do live confirmations for the same day appointments. So if you set an appointment today, let's say it's noontime, and you set an appointment for Dominic to come in at 3, then you're going to patch it over to me right then and there to do a live confirmation, and then just kind of have that as a manager. So Dominic, you would know that you're going to come in and ask for me, and kind of get that treatment from a manager versus just from Joe Blow anybody. You know what I mean? So kind of set it up that a manager is going to be involved right from the get-go. If it's an appointment for, the next day or later, depending on what time the appointment is, if the appointment is before 11 o'clock in the morning, right, we open up at 8. If it's before 11 o'clock in the morning, then I will confirm the appointment the night before. And if it's after 11 o'clock, I'll confirm it the morning of, except for when it's my next day is my day off. So Wednesday's my day off. So Tuesday night, I'll go through and confirm all the appointments for Wednesday. And then on Saturday, I'll confirm all Sunday's appointments because we are open 7 days a week.
So
yeah, and as far as our process is very similar, and the one thing we do differently, all of our confirmation is actually done by the BDRs themselves. We just make sure we want the customer to take ownership of the appointment and really jam it into their heads that it is firm and that we are expecting them. So you always at the end of the call you do your own personal confirmation when you ask them. Now, I am going to have the manager on standby, so if you are going to be a little bit early or a little bit late, you can give me a call and let me know, right? And then you just give them that little tick, like, okay, so this is for real kind of thing. But and our worry and part of what our program is about, that The concern is that if either a salesperson or the manager confirms it, that the customer is going to get this idea, oh, this is the manager. You said he's the guy that's going to get me the numbers on my trade, the guy that's going to give me the best price, the guy that's going to do this for me. Well, I got him on the phone now. Why don't I just ask him now and talk about it now? What's the point of coming in if I can just talk to him right now? And so he's going to have to go through all those objections again and have to handle it the second time. Oh, now I got to come up with reasons why you need to be here.
So is everybody on the call familiar with the Cardinale confirmation process? I know we talk about it all the time. Do you guys want me to run through it, or do you all know it? I don't want to bore you if you've heard it before. We do have 80%. We do have 80% show rates. I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's just talk about it. So
No, I don't. No, I want to know how to get more appointments. No, don't tell me that.
Okay, so Dominic, I love what you're saying, but if a sales manager can't handle a customer asking a question about a price or payment or something, or an objection coming up during a confirmation call, there's a problem. A huge problem. Maybe that's not the guy you want confirming a call. We do live confirmations all the time. So if they can't get a manager to pick up, and it's cradle to grave. So sales rep sets the appointment, live transfer to a sales manager. Then we have a VIP appointment confirmation script that I will give to anybody. We give it away all the time. But we do a specialty drink order. So the manager is going through, they're confirming, you talk to Dominic. He's a fantastic expert on this particular vehicle. When you come into the showroom at Saturday at 1:30, are you going to be coming by yourself, or are you going to be bringing anyone else with you? Great, you're bringing your sister. I tell you what, since you're coming in, we like for all of our guests to be treated with the greatest of care. I'd love to run to Starbucks or Jamba Juice and get you a drink. What would you and your sister like to have? So we're taking it to the next level. We're showing them, there's an expectation there, right? Yes, they are going to come, and we're going to go get you a drink. It's not just that the manager's on standby. Come on, I mean, the manager's always on standby. He's got to be there. He freaking works there. But if I'm going to give you something above and beyond, we're confirming that time several times throughout the script. So again, putting into their head on Saturday at 1:30, you're going to be here. And when you and your sister get here, I'm going to have a mocha latte, frappuccino, blah, 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 and a black coffee for your sister. Ready and waiting. And then when you get here, ask for me, the manager. The manager is doing that early TO. We want that FaceTime. But going through that script and that live confirmation and setting up that experience for them and letting them know when they come in, the car is going to be pulled up, their name will be in the car. It's all nice and clean. But because we can explain that and we can back it up, that's where the show rates go. And it's not that you're giving that, you're not giving the customer a chance to back out. You're hitting when the ether is high. They just said yes. They were excited and they just said yes. So that ether is high. Come right on in with that manager confirmation, voice to voice, live time. Set up the expectation for that wonderful experience in your showroom. They just come pouring in.
No, I just jump back on, but I was going to say, also when you paint the picture like that, the part that I hear about it, you'll close a lot higher level of your sales report of your sales because that first impression of the customer, it matches what you told them. Absolutely. So their fear of these guys are going to jack me around, screw me over, just their walls come completely down. So like I have my people, they'll tell them, hey, we're going to pull it up front, it's going to have a reserve sign with your name in it. Someone else will greet you, ask for me to get your VIP pricing and service. So it happens just like that. They come in, someone greets them, they ask for my rep. Rep walks out, walks in the car, there's the sign with their name, and their walls just drop off. And better gross, higher closing percentage makes it super easy.
Yeah, the hard part is getting that pulled off in a lot of dealerships. I remember my very first internet sales department that I ran, I had an increase of 11% in units that we kicked out just by having the car ready at the door or in that front when they came in. Just by having the car there. We didn't even have the signs in there, but the car was there, all pretty.
Jen, you're breaking up pretty bad.
Oh.
I don't know if it's just me that's seeing that, though.
I'm just seeing that.
It's my magnetic energy, sorry. I was saying,
too much positivity going on here.
Exactly. What I was saying was that my very first internet department, I had an 11% increase in the unit volumes just by having the car ready when the customer got there. So when they walked up the ramp into the showroom, they saw their pretty car, tires were buttered, it looked great. Just that emotional connection, and that's why we do the live voice to voice. It's to keep the ether going and get them excited and paint that picture.
Right, and that's part of the process that you got to have in place where it's not just any one thing. It's a bunch of little things that you have to do together where every department is on the same team to perform a certain play, and the audience is the customer, plain and simple. And if you're not doing that, then you're missing out substantially on a lot of deals. All right, anybody else got anything to add in for best practices for confirming appointments? Mr. Cassidy, do you have anything else you want to throw in?
No, I was really just saying because I'm the one that the ideas don't have much throwing on this end.
Not a problem. Why don't we switch over to Mr. Seth Dunstan's how to map out your CRM properly or processes for every opportunity.
So here's my issue with that. So when you first set this thing up, my thing was more, hey, I wanted to find out about it, not necessarily that I'm knowledgeable about it, right? So I'd rather get everyone else's input on what are some opportunities in your CRM that you can map out that people don't typically do. Obviously, we're going to have a process for a fresh internet lead and incoming phone call walk-in traffic. But what kind of process do you have set up for the customer who bought at the other dealership or the customer you couldn't get financed, things like that you have in place to capture that business down the road?
So for me, that comes down to you gotta have it set up properly. So if there's a person that you couldn't get financed, then you gotta make sure, because you guys, your store handled the cradle to the grave, right? So it's not like you have a BDC that has to be dependent on a salesperson. It's your guys that are doing this. So as long as they do the proper steps ahead of time, as long as they wow the customer, give them that great experience and make them fall in love. Even if they fall in love with the car but they can't buy it, they're going to fall in love with the salesperson. They're going to fall in love with the dealership. They're going to fall in love with everything that you have to add as value for your value-added proposition. If you've done that, then the follow-up would be, okay, Seth, I apologize that we weren't able to make a deal, happen today, but I'm going to reach out to you, in let's say a couple of weeks or a month, whatever the case may be, to see if anything has changed on your end, or see if maybe something's changed on mine, or maybe I can knock together that will make sense for you. Does that work? And kind of having that communication back and forth with the customer, where you're still leaving your follow-up open, that you can still have them leave upset and feeling embarrassed that they couldn't get approved and never wanted to come back to your dealership again.
Well, I mean more specifically, like let's say, okay, I get to the point I can't get the co-signer at that point in time. They don't have money down to get it bought, right? So I'm over here. A specific process, like, do you think it's appropriate that 30 days later that I have an automated email that goes out there to tick, like, call them in 30 days, then it's 6 months? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong topic, that's cool, but I'm trying to figure out how to map out my CRM appropriately so I can start pulling deals on stuff that typically just goes bye-bye and people never hit it again.
I think...
So, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, in that particular, for instance, I'd like to have a touch point maybe at 4 or 5 days, just to check to see, something might have happened. Their great aunt could have died and left them an inheritance. You never know. But it's a credit counseling situation and follow-up process from there, right? Check to see. And plus, because one thing we have to let them to understand is that maybe inventory would change. One of the things, especially with SpyFi customers, I like to set it up, is explain to them that while you might want a Camaro, that's like a dream house, right? You don't buy your dream house right away. You buy a starter home. So let's make sure we can try and get you into a starter home. And my inventory changes all of the time. I may not be able to get you financed right now, but if you are able to find, $1,000 or a cosigner, or maybe I have a car that has a little bit better position with the bank that they'll feel comfortable with. So if it's okay with you, this is my 5-day call, whatever, in 30 days or 3 weeks or however you want to set that up, I wouldn't go any further past 30 days. I like to touch them at least 30 days. To say, let's touch base and see where you are. I'll take a look and see where I am and see if there's anything that we can do. But I do like to put into an automated process for that type of buyer some different tips on ways for them to help them improve their score or put them in a better purchase position, because that's something that you can set up automated that no one else is going to take the time to do. And then 6 months later, when they got a promotion or a better paying job or paid off, their credit cards, who are they going to call back? They're not going to call back the people who never talked to them. They're going to call you. And then you lost the deal to another dealer. I love it. I'm sneaky with that one. So a bought elsewhere, that gets on day 8, they're going to get an email asking them how they love their new car. I'm incredibly sorry that we weren't able to find the right car for you. But now that you have the car that you're in love with, just in case you didn't get all the accessories you need, here's 10% off of accessories in my part department. Please come on in. And so then I'm trying to grab them in for service. Then at 45 days, I'm also going to send them something talking about an oil change or a service and give them a discount or some little whatever. And you got to coordinate that with your service department, right? I just want to get them to come in and do an oil change with me, because then I can get their home, their VIN, their mileage, 2 phone numbers, work email, home email. I can get all of that stuff. And then we can get them into our system and loving us as a dealership. And you just want to kind of scatter that out the same way you would a sold process for loyalty or retention. But keep in mind that the scripts or the templates that you're using need to be geared to somebody who bought from a competitor.
And I want to throw in with that you should be able to have it set up in your CRM that if you mark it as a dead deal bought elsewhere, let's say you have a substatus of bought elsewhere same make or bought elsewhere different make, that all of a sudden it kicks in that automatic follow-up. You know what I mean? So you can do just what Jen talked about, where automatically it's going to set up follow-up for you for 4, 5, 6 days later for you to call them and kind of do that credit consultation. If it was a credit customer you couldn't get bought, or if it was somebody that bought elsewhere, to do what Jen talked about, where you're saying, hey, I apologize that we weren't able to make a deal here, but just in case you were not able to do this, let me see if I can get you a discount, and then you have that automated follow-up going on from there. So that would be one thing I would look into, Seth, is seeing if you can have different workflows set up per status.
Oh, no, I can for sure. And I'm the one who sets it up. That's why I was kind of curious. So I pulled mine open, for example, like a lost sale. Well, in my options that I could build a work plan on are no loan, no price agreement, not ready to buy, upside down and trade. And then also bought elsewhere, same make, or bought elsewhere, different make. Can you think of anything other than those situations that you should have mapped out in your CRM on a no-close sale that you should, you know what I mean? Like, is there another angle we're missing there as far as it should be done so that you're capturing everything and not missing or leaving holes anywhere?
Now, can you read through those one more time a little bit slower for me so I can remember them?
I drink a lot of coffee. No loan, which would be you can't get financed.
Yep.
No price agreement, meaning they just couldn't comes at that point, which that just is weak to me.
Yeah.
I still keep pounding on that. Not ready to buy. It's in the CRM, so I didn't make that because I don't believe in that. Upside down trade, and then they have bought elsewhere, different make, bought elsewhere, same make. And those are the pathways that I have in there that I will dial in. Can you think of other pathways maybe the CRM doesn't have in there that I should call them and say, hey, let's install this too, because there might be some deals in there where I can automate a process and tickle leads down the road, whatnot, and create business.
Well, I mean, for me, that sounds like you covered pretty much the basis, unless somebody else can come up with a reason why somebody has not bought from you or is not buying from you. What are your premises?
You guys are all brilliant. That's why I'm asking.
Bought elsewhere. Bought elsewhere interest rate.
One of the things that you can do as well, I'm sure.
Bought elsewhere interest rate. They don't like your rate, right? Same thing. They don't like your price. That's got to be a different type follow up because it's not no loan. They could get a loan, but they don't like the rate you gave them. You could be missing a lot if you got somebody who's trying to do too big of a bump. Trying to keep that hold back. That you could be losing a lot of deals that way. So you should automate a process off interest rate.
So you're saying having a sub process So bought elsewhere, let's say bought elsewhere same make, but they bought elsewhere same make because of the price or because of the rate.
Well,
or
no,
maybe it was a
no.
bought elsewhere same make because of the bad experience.
Not necessarily bought elsewhere. So he ran through the list, right? No loan is one. No, couldn't agree on the price is another. Not ready to buy. Well, I mean, yeah, not ready to buy is weak. But if we're talking about no price, we could also be having an interest rate issue. And that's going to depend on your market and the knowledge of your customers. And if your customers know, if your guys are telling them 4% and they know, and they're saying, no, you know what, I can get a better interest rate somewhere else. And somebody lets them leave their dealership. If it's your job to set a follow-up process, you want to know that's why they left your dealership. It's not necessarily that they bought somewhere else. It's that you couldn't agree on a rate. And somebody wants to look at that one fast. If you have one of those.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because then you could do rate, price, or payment.
Yep.
Those are a little bit angles on all three of those.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And one of the things that I was going to mention with those statuses, you can also do e-blast based on those specific statuses to try to target those people based on the reason why either A, they didn't buy the good they could buy, or they ended up buying elsewhere, same make, different make, whatever the case may be. So you can target them specifically and do an e-blast, geared towards them, doing like the special in service, discount on parts or whatever the case may be.
Well, why stick with just like having the special in the parts as a special in service? One thing you should do as a part of the follow process, purchase same make, other dealership, or purchase different make, is automate the process to remind the customer that they have a service appointment coming up. Because let's face it, how many sales consultants are actually calling their customers saying, hi, you've had the car for 9 months, now it's time for you to come in for your first service? Why not have your process set up so that a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, it's sending them an automated email saying, hey, just want to make sure everything's going well with the car that you purchased. Why not send them an email 15 days after you marked it as dead, purchase a different dealership? Did the other dealership show you how to properly work the Bluetooth, work the navigation in your car? If not, come on in. We'll have one of my delivery consultants go over that for you. No charge whatsoever. We'll set up the appointment for you. So, don't make it just the service. Just make it about general, overall good customer service. So this way, when it comes time for them to go to the table, they're not just thinking of give me a price on a car, but he has been helpful since this not the last time. That
makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this guy. The command turned in with me on yesterday. Went through the complete setup with the Intune proprietary infotainment, and the guys never even touched on it. They never went over it. They didn't know that they had all this expanded available accessibility in their car that they get just straight from hooking up their smartphone.
Yeah, it happens all the time. 2 years ago, had a customer in S60. He always drove a convenient dealership. Called me up. He said, I'm interested in this car, but I don't want the nav because the DP keeps telling me it's a crummy nav. It's a crummy nav. I said, no, come on in. Let me show you how it works, and it's going to be easy. And the guy's bought 3 cars from me since. And this DP keeps calling up, screaming, why'd you take this? I'm like, hey, you're the one that told him the system was crummy. I just showed him otherwise. So that's entirely on you.
All right, perfect. So we've hit 2 hours that we've been on this video conference call, and I'm not saying it's going to be over, but I just wanted to kind of see if anything else I'd like to discuss, or if everybody's actually I want to know if everybody's enjoyed doing this as well, because if this has been a success, everybody's liked it, then I'd like to do these more often, where we can talk about more things, and not necessarily just automotive BDC. Internet side, but maybe dealership side, sales process, and stuff like that. So I'd kind of like to hear your thoughts on all of that.
Oh, this has been absolutely amazing. I mean, anytime we got one of these.
Yeah, I would appreciate any time that I get to talk to people with as much knowledge as the people that are in there. At my store, I have no one to talk to. I have no one to learn. This is the kind of stuff where I have to go to sharpen my sword and get better.
Isn't
right. If you weren't so combative with me, Seth, I do want to help you out more. But God, you got to do it every time I say something.
Just call me, Seth. Just call me. It's fine.
You don't believe in pulling gross, Jared. Pulling corn and grain.
Yeah.
Kidding, by the way.
So, no,
Right.
this is, I think, really important, especially being able to share this with other people. I think that's a great point. What Seth said, he doesn't have anybody to talk to. I know for the longest time, even though I did get to go to conferences on a regular basis, I'd go to a conference and I'd get to be around all these super wicked smart people and get all excited about everything I learned and then come back to my dealership and be like, oh, you guys are dumb. Oh, so you have that feeling where you're like with all the cool kids and then you're like, oh. So, but the way I learned everything in this business, because I had nobody to teach me. I had a 2-hour exit interview, and that was it. Was through forums, webcasts, all sorts of different things. So I think it's really important, not just for BDC managers, but like you said, we talk about, sales processes, different things all across the dealership, even for salespeople who don't have an opportunity to be able to put this type of collaborative knowledge base together. It's a big deal.
Oh, 100%. Now, I posted the other day, and I know some of you probably saw it, some of you commented on it, a 2-part question asking about everybody in the automotive BDC, JR Bachelor's BDC group there. Who do you feel in the group is, experienced and knowledgeable and helpful? And what would your thoughts be on collaborating those people into creating like a training manual, and not necessarily just for automotive, the whole process together? Because I know, Jen, you got some wealth of knowledge across all platforms, especially now working for the Cardinale Group. I know, Will, you got some great knowledge. Seth, you got some great knowledge. Joel and Dominic, I haven't had a chance to interact with you guys as much as I would like to, and I know going forward I'm definitely going to. But, what are your thoughts on something like that as well? I'd like to hear some opinions there.
I would read it. I wouldn't, not that my auto group wouldn't allow me to participate in that, but I would absolutely read it and get any nuggets I could get out of it.
Right.
Well, I saw the post. I didn't really respond to it for the reason that somebody else had responded already. If you're looking at just cutting it down to like 10 people, to put it out there like that, not to cut anybody short on their bit of knowledge, but it was going to take a lot of serious thought.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason why I said 5 to 10 people was because if I say who would you pick, then we're going to have responses that are 50, 60, 70 people long, because losing talent in that group as well as a couple other groups and overall in the industry. And the thing that I've always said and that I wish we could just make happen is that we could pull all of us together and let's just work for like one massive motor group where we have like every franchise and we just make things happen the way that we talk about. Because it would be magical. It seriously would be unicorns pooping skittles everywhere. I'm not even kidding.
You just wait. You just wait. There will be.
You know what's funny? I actually said that. Actually, I said that to the people at the Be Less Typical podcast for the interview.
I'm just
on the statement, so we'll get back on the podcast.
Hey, I'm just telling you guys that I am already right now in the research process looking to buy a store probably on an island in a U.S. territory in the next 5 years. If you want to come work for me, just saying.
Can I work remotely?
I work peanuts, literally.
Well, I figure I train.
I wear shorts, right? Actual peanuts.
I figure I train this all over the place. I might as well just buy my own damn dealership.
It's not a Canadian island, is it?
No, not a Canadian island. No, I'm looking at Puerto Rico, Hawaii, or U.S. Virgin Islands. Those are the 3 territories. And I'm serious, you guys.
Have you asked them what's going to be your favorite umbrella drink in that situation?
Are you selling both the cars?
Right. No, she's selling mopeds on the island.
It depends on which islands, but Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, yeah, it's going to depend. No Sherpas.
Now listen, if you put on Puerto Rico, it doesn't matter if you're selling radio flower wagons. They'll go out there and sell 50 of them a month.
Half of my family can't get passports, so it has to be a U.S. territory. So.
Right. All right. Well, do you guys want to continue going, or do you guys want to cut this now and then save up for another time that we can do this? I figure 2 hours is a pretty good amount of time, and I don't want to keep anybody too long from trying to get their stuff done.
Yeah, and I got kiddos I got to attend to, so I'm surprised they haven't burned the rest of the house down. We haven't heard them scream bloody murder once.
Well, I didn't want to tell you, but you do have smoke coming from the door behind you.
Yeah, there's a sprinkler system. It's fine.
I've still got deals working. I appreciate everybody's time.
Well, I'm going to work on putting this together again. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but I'd like to do these more often, more frequently, because I think this is great. So if anybody has any suggestions, any comments to make it better, by all means, please feel free to message me or comment on the post, and let's make it happen. I appreciate everybody taking the time today to do this.
Yeah,
I want to say thanks for putting it together.
Yes,
Really,
thank you, Jared.
Perfect, not a problem. You guys have a great night, okay?
All right.
All right, take care.
You too.
All right.
Good night, everybody.